mean, it's bigger now. There's a lot more people, but there's a lot more people on the planet too, so it makes sense. I feel like recently, maybe it's because there's so many people, but I feel like there's a lot more ambitious people and people who are looking to get book deals or animation, whatever. Or maybe it's just LA, I don't know, now that I'm in Los Angeles. But I feel like it wasn't really like that before. And when I got my first book deal for this book called Kiss and Tell that came out in 2010, I think it was. I'd been making comics for a long time, and I never really thought that that's something that I would want to do, to have a lot of different people look at it. So I know for me, like, that wasn't a goal, and then eventually it was, but it was kind of weird because I'd always thought of zines and people who read them as this really small community. So yeah, the readership is a lot bigger. I try not to think about it. Everything that I've done, I grow out of after a month. And so when the publishing takes so freaking long, like my book turning Japanese, from completion to when it actually came out as a book, I think there was 2 or 3 years. And so by the time everyone's seeing it for the first time, this is so old for me. I look and I'm like, oh, this art sucks and this story is really clunky, but I can't go back and change it all. Or if I did, then I would never create anything new. That's the trick. I'm kind of, it depends on each project. Right now, I'm working on one right now where I don't know what it's gonna look like. So I'm using Post-its and trying to figure out how's the story gonna look? Is there even a story here? What's this gonna look like? Am I gonna use drawings? Like, it takes a lot of trial and error, but every book has been completely a different experience as far as how I've built it up, so it's impossible to answer. I mean, it changed over time. I think turning Japanese just sounded funny to me because I'm a child of the 80s, and that song was pretty popular back then, and also it's kind of offensive, but it's also kind of funny, and also I was literally trying to turn Japanese. I mean, there's so many entendres there that started as the working title, and I just kept it, and it's easy to remember. But the goal, I mean, I spent so many years making that book, and the goal kept changing. Originally, I just wanted to tell a story of this funny job I used to have. And I even started a comic about it, I think in '98, which was about the hostess bars. And I think I got 2 pages into it and I put it down because there's only so far you can go with a story about work, because it's kind of boring. Because when I started the jobs, the hostess jobs, I thought, oh, this is kind of interesting. Maybe I'll write about it someday. Not even thinking I would write memoir, but I thought I would write about it, have a character in a novel, be a Japanese bar hostess. But in reality, the job was really boring because it was a job that I lost any kind of ambition to include it artistically anywhere. And then in '98, maybe that was around the same time that was happening. I guess it had just happened. I tried to write about it. I'm like, oh, this is boring. So I put it down. And I tried to pick it up a bunch of times over the years. And it just wasn't very interesting because it was just, oh, hey, I'm writing about work. And I think what clicked was when I realized how much it tied into me kind of searching for my own identity, sense of self, which I knew that was happening. I never really put the two together, that they had anything to do with one another. And once that click locked in, then I was like, oh, okay, that's the story. But it took a long time for me to figure out what the story was, as in all memoir. You just I feel like there's a lot of people out there who don't consider me Asian American. There's definitely people who've made that clear to me on the internet, and they can go fuck themselves. writing from a perspective of someone, of a mixed race queer person. Okay, here's your answer for the queer mixed race person thing. Yeah, it can feel like a heavy load if you feel like you have to tell everyone's story, because you can't. I mean, and when there's not a lot of people who are telling the story, people assume that, oh, okay, so you're the Hapa cartoonist, and I just can't let other people, I can't listen to other people and let them dictate that. I mean, they can think what they want to think, but it's not necessarily the case, and the more people that are telling their stories, the less people are going to do that. So yeah, there's a lot of pressure, but I just try to ignore it. It's so much more painful to be dumped by a friend than it is by a lover, in my opinion. Yeah. Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out how to write about that right now, but I really don't like how the media, and by media I mean just everything, like books, movies, everything I've ever seen, the way they portray friendships as this sort of side burner type thing, or if there's a close female friendship, then they're always fighting about boys or stuff like that, which I really haven't lived that experience, and it's, you know, there's so much acrimony, it's always competitive, but I mean, there might be that element to friendship sometimes, but it's just so, it's not like it is in the movies or whatever, and I just, when Retrofit approached me and asked if I wanted to do a book, and I'm like, oh, sure, and they said it could be about whatever I wanted it to be, like that was the first thing that I thought. I'm like, oh, because ultimately relationships are what interests me the most, and between strangers, between lovers, between friends, like it's just so interesting how humans interact. We're so weird. Isn't that enough? Yeah, I have 3 books coming out. It's a trilogy. It's about teenagers and possibly aliens. The first one's coming out next spring. That's already done. This next one I'm working on, I just started inking it yesterday, and then there's the third one that I have to do. And then I also have a book coming out with 2D Cloud in the fall, another memoir, like a collection, kind of like, I'm not going to say kind of like Dragon's Breath, because it's not, but it's another collection. It'll be in color. And then this other memoir I'm working on, and just various things here and there. I have a long list of things that I want to do eventually.